Hey, hello. Hello, everyone, to this wonderful live unboxing session that we have today. We prepare quite a nice, a bunch of people that are with me today to discuss Penpot 2.6 design tokens. This is going to be, we don't do many of these unboxing live sessions because we try to kind of preserve unboxing crazy stuff for big releases. This is one of them. I know that people, you out there know this is big. So I want to do just an intro on what we're going to do today, and then I'll be introducing the next speaker, and then we'll have all the cool stuff to show. Let me first acknowledge how important Penpot 2.6 is in terms of how we are bringing innovation to the design and prototyping world, but also how close we were to the recent 2.5 release. 2.5 release was about productivity boosts and making the whole workflow of design and prototyping such an amazing experience. And we have to do a lot around that, and yet also move into this uncharted innovation territory to give you things that perhaps you were not expecting. So this is a very truly special moment for the Penpot team and friends, and I would like to discuss a bit why this is relevant in terms of this big alliance that we are trying to build with you too. Well, this is Penpot 2.6. This is a nice screenshot that we have. This is showing you the new tokens tab on that left pane. You can see here a wonderful example of having, editing token using mathematical operations, a nice UI that you're designing, plenty of different dimensions and token categories, all of that here for you. This is ready for you to enjoy. But this is representing much more than just a feature, and we will be discussing a lot of that in a minute. I want to try to express why having native design tokens for a tool like Penpot represents so much more than just yet another feature. And I want to share with you 4 principles that enforce and inform everything we do at Penpot. And we've been discussing this for a number of months already, and this is another opportunity for me to underscore these 4 principles. The cool thing about these 4 principles is that design tokens embodies all of them. And this is not typically the case, and this is why this is so exciting. So first principle that we understand in terms of bringing design and code together and really building this new alliance between designers and developers is that a tool that embodies that should be declarative design first, because this is going to allow developers to really enjoy and onboard the design process finally. I think we have been suffering from this silo mentality where designers come from Venus and developers come from Mars. And part of this problem is due to the fact that we have built design and prototyping tools using this imperative design paradigm instead of how the code world works, which is declarative design. This is a major topic, and I'm not going to go into detail today, but if you want to think declarative design, you actually enjoy that every day when you see road signs. So next time you see a stop sign or a speed limit, think this is declarative design and what it means for the audience that is using that. In terms of technology, of course, this means CSS, being inspired by CSS, either using it directly, like Flexbox and Grid CSS layout for Penpot, or in other parts of the platform. So this is principle number one. Principle number two for a tool that really wants to get us to the next level in this evolution of product building is we have to make that tool open source and open standards friendly or native. And this is very important in so many ways. Of course, you need to have full ownership of the tools. You have to trust the tools that you're using. You have to have the best of social contracts when it comes to picking your tools. But also, this has a very natural consequence, which is that you're building an interoperable ecosystem. And this is very much the open source ethos, where instead of building one gigantic tool that then becomes a suite and then becomes kind of a universe of tools, we prefer to focus on specialized tools that then are able to speak to each other. So watch out for everything that we want to share here at Penpot around open source and open standards. The third principle is that we have opinions about your opinions, we could say. We strongly believe that it is not the responsibility of the tool, of one tool like Penpot, to make all the decisions about how your design and prototyping workflow should be. We think this is very much your own decision. You deserve your own agency and ownership of the workflow and decisions. And we need to build tools that are not biasing you in terms of what is considered to be good design or a good design workflow, but rather allowing you to explore that freedom yourself. We want to deal with complexity so that you can really deal with your own creativity. And I think that's very important. And that's a subject of opinionated mindsets. I'm sure you are here. Design tokens, for instance, it is very much within this mindset, because after all, design tokens, you can see it in many ways, of course, but I like to see them as a taxonomy effort. And taxonomy is still giving you complete freedom as how to leverage that for your workflows. And finally, the fourth principle, and this is very important, very dear to us, is that we need to make sure that the tools that we're building are accessible and inclusive for everyone. We don't want to build tools that require that you are senior already, that you have the appropriate taste, but rather that you can be either just a junior or a beginner, regardless of your past experience, or a seasoned developer or designer, and still enjoy a wonderful onboarding experience with Penpot. I think we need to make sure that this alliance between design and code, it's not just for an elite, but actually for everyone out there that is considering belonging, being part of software building process. I think the right technology, we will be building the right technology. Also, we have everyone on board and not just a few selected individuals. So very important for us. Now, before I move on to the second section, we are presenting design tokens today. And it looks like it's super recent and wonderfully, recent. But actually, this started thanks to you, to the community. This is September 2022, and we already had people in our community asking for this support for design token standard. So this was a very nice little thread that happened in that month. I think there was something else that happened September 2022. Anyway, this was relevant for us to see how people were understanding how important for us was this bridging the gap between design and code, and people were saying, okay, if Penpot is really embracing that, you should go design token standard. So this was already back then happening. And then May 2023, so 7-8 months later, we have a specific request, like design tokens integration. And so this is, it actually mentions Token Studio here, this community member, shout out to them. And we have a longer thread here where they are discussing why this is important. Perhaps other tools are already doing that, perhaps not. And this is super cool. And people are celebrating the fact that it looks like we are having conversations with Token Studio. Is it real? Is it real that Penpot and Token Studio are joining forces? Well, actually, just a month after this, we celebrated Penpot Fest 2023, sorry. And this happened. We have a short little video to show you what happened then.
There is a better integration in development tools, but design tools don't really have a proper integration till this day. And nothing great is ever achieved alone. So we, as a plugin for Figma, decided that we want to step out of the Figma ecosystem, and we found the perfect partner for that in the form of Penpot. Really excited by that.
Yes. So of course we have been busy about this. We not only because the community told us that this was relevant, it was felt like very relevant for us at Penpot. I'm so happy that I'll be now, giving the stage to no other than Mike. So this is all for me for now. Mike, the stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Really excited to be here today. Yeah, as a CEO and one of the co-founders at Hyma, of course, I've been deeply passionate about design tokens and the entire design tooling space. Let me start by saying that, and Pablo already mentioned a lot of things already. So I'm really between you and an amazing demo. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet today. But there's a couple of points that I think are important to not go by unmentioned, and that's, first of all, today this is not a feature launch. It is a feature launch, but this is not a feature launch, right? We're really igniting a movement right here. I really think that together we are reshaping, what the design world can be. Some of you may already know us, but maybe I'll quickly introduce what we're doing at Hyma. So at Hyma, we've been building open source tools like Token Studio, initially as a plugin for Figma, and later our platform as well. We've been building Style Dictionary for a couple of years now, and Style Dictionary is most used tool to transform your design tokens or design data into any output format that you may want to use across your different tools and technologies. And the graph engine, where we've really started thinking about, the underlying principles, the underlying logic behind design and design tokens, and really how do we find the algorithm behind design, and how do we create a future that is really scalable. And we're not just doing this, as a product. We're doing this entirely open source. So when Penpot decided, as Pablo mentioned, that it was time to start work on design tokens, they decided to build that on top of a shared ethos of open source, of breaking barriers, of freedom of data. So yeah, I think when Pablo reached out to us to discuss this, and we started this conversation, it was an extremely exciting time, and I think it's a really, really important milestone. So we decided to join forces on this mission, and not just on the mission of bringing Token Studio or design tokens to Penpot, but really to start working together on a mission to create standards for the entire industry, for all of us, to have this interoperability between design tools, technologies, and basically all the tools that you would need to create the experiences you want to create. Like Pablo mentioned, it's not about the one tool that can do it all. It's really about being able to connect it. So the way we did that, of course, is by going all in on the design tokens format created by the design tokens community group initially, initially by a few folks, and then formed into the design tokens community group to write the format. And today, since 1.5 years now, I'm also one of the editors at the DTCG, working constantly to represent a large community of designers and engineers to really get the standard and the specification to a place where it's going to unlock all this, what we've been hoping for. So because Penpot, just like us, believes that design should be a shared language and not some sort of a proprietary puzzle. We're really excited that we're finally bringing major movement on the design token spec as well. So why does this matter that we are working on the DTCG spec and bringing native design tokens? Because it will create a healthy ecosystem. And a healthy ecosystem means that we, as users, have the freedom to own our data, to be able to use different tools, to be able to not have to redo all the work we have done in one tool in another tool again, just because there's no way for these tools to communicate. And I think that's another huge alignment between Token Studio, Hyma, and between Penpot, and that is that our tools are open by design, and we really strongly believe in tools that are built API first and that let the data flow effortlessly as such. And I think it's just really, really important that every designer, every engineer, every brand around the world is able to own their data, without having to, go through all kinds of loops. So I think this partnership is absolutely revolutionary. I'm really excited about it. And in fact, I would be bold enough to say that I think what we've done here is a blueprint of how things can be done when we think in terms of open and collaboration. And so I think to just emphasize back once more on the DTCG spec, the Token Studio was one of the first tools that really made a significant adoption, and I think it's been one of the snowball effects of large adoption on the design token spec. And now with Penpot also releasing today, this is going to be huge, right? We are really moving towards having a standard in our industry now, and this is only going to get better. So I'm really, really excited. But like I promised, I'm not going to talk too much about it because we are really going to have a look at what we've been building for you. So I'd like to hand it over to the next speaker, and I wish you a lot of fun with the demo.
Hello, friends. So you might know me already. I'm Laura Kalbag. I'm a designer and a dev, and I work with Penpot on education. And you know what? I wrote my first article about design systems in 2012. That was 13 years ago. You can look it up. And so obviously I am really excited about design tokens, and I'm thrilled to be able to demo all of the goodness in Penpot today. Now I'm just going to start. I've got my own little timer running here because you know me, I can get a bit overexcited. I don't want to overrun too badly. So here I am. I'm just starting here in the Penpot dashboard, and I'm just going to start with a really simple example. Let's start with what is a design token. So I'm going to the tokens tab here, and I'm just going to create a color token. And I am going to create a token which is a combination of a name and a value. That's just what a token is. And it can represent a really small little design decision. So for example, I could call this modal.background. So I'm doing a token for my modal background, and I'm going to add a hex code for that. I wrote this down so that I could get a pretty enough color. Okay, so I have a background token with a value here. I'm going to save that, and it appears here in the list. And I'm going to select my little modal, and I've already applied it. Sort of a here's one we made earlier. So in order to apply that token to my modal, I'm right-clicking the token, and I'm choosing, I can set it as the stroke color, or I can set it as the fill color. And it's just that simple. Now, you can tell the token is applied by the highlight in the left sidebar there. And you can find that whenever you select the object on the canvas or in the layers list as well. Now, there are some other types here, and I'll go into them in a little more detail later, so you can have more than just color. But from these very simple design tokens, we can build up way more complex systems. So let me show you one of those. Right, okay, let's go back to my other tab. So here's one I made earlier. Now, when I have something like design tokens that I'm using, I have the option to do some quite complex things. So for example, I can switch between densities. So if I'm zooming here to my dashboard mockup, I can choose to have a compact density. I can choose to have a comfortable density. I can choose to have a spacious density. This is allowing me to design for multiple environments with way fewer mockups. I could switch between color themes. So maybe I choose between going for a more muted color or maybe a more vibrant color. And this makes it much easier to collaborate using values that your team has agreed upon. It makes your design systems much easier to create and to maintain. I could switch between, say, dark modes and light modes. And so you're building up these really complex but maintainable systems. Maybe I want to update the accent color that I use across the entirety of my design. So I'm going to jump into the color theme tokens here, and I'm going to my color token, and maybe I'm just going to switch these out. At the moment, I'm using purple for my accent. I'm going to switch these out to pink. And just by changing a few little tokens, you might start to see some changes. And these are just a few tokens. She does manually. It's lucky I'm copying and pasting, not typing, because you know this would take me a really long time. And just by changing those tokens, I have changed these colors across all of my mockups in the relevant places, whether they're strokes, whether they're transparent, whether they're backgrounds, whether they're borders. These are all been changed across the design. So as Pablo and Mike both mentioned, the design tokens adhere to the design tokens standard format. And this means, if I switch and show you, if you export your design tokens, you get this JSON file, which is very readable, but it is also that standard format that will work with any other tool that uses design tokens, any front-end web framework you might be using with design tokens as well. And I can get that just by going to the Tools button at the bottom of the Tokens tab and using Export. What I can also do is import existing design tokens. So let's have a look at that. I'm going to go back to this basic demo, and I'm going to import some tokens that I made earlier. And so now I have in my global set a bunch of tokens. Now, your tokens can be named in any way that you like, but there are some standards that are kind of emerging in design systems at the moment. And so, for example, one of these is t-shirt sizes for scales, because often what you want to do is you want to have a whole set of units that you can choose from in your design token setup. And these are often called foundation or global or base tokens. And you might have radiuses in your t-shirt sizes. So that's medium and small, extra large, large. If I go back to this example, I can show you some colors as well. So you might have huge color palettes to choose from. And these are very conventional steps, having every step in your color gradient going from 50 up to 950. This is something that we've seen in a lot of web frameworks for a while. A lot of designers are already using it. And the idea that you can very easily switch between those colors and have a similar level of brightness and saturation across any palette. And so these are the kinds of foundation tokens. But you don't have to name them like that. You can name them whatever you want, as long as your token uses dots to separate them. And you can kind of use these dots as the hierarchy for naming your tokens. That will be a little clearer in a moment. And we can use sets as well, however you like. So if I go back to this one, so I might want to create, say, a brand set. Now, this is just another container for my tokens, And maybe I'm going to create a brand color that is a surface background color. And that is going to be, what I really like is it's telling me what this value is going to resolve to down here as well. And I can save that. So let me apply that as my background fill. And so I have a brand one here. And so I've got to select the set to be able to see it. And so I can switch on and off my brand set of tokens, which is a really helpful way of working to be able to work across all of your different files as well. Now, you can use different token types however you like. So for example, with these spacing tokens, the restriction between the different token types is they can only be applied to the relevant properties for that token type. So for example, you can't apply a color to a, let me select something. You can't apply a color to a unit of spacing. That wouldn't make any sense. And in the same way, with the spacing, you can apply it to all of your column gaps, your row gaps, your paddings, and your margins. For your border radiuses, you can apply those to all of the border radiuses of the selected layer or individual corners of the radius. And so those will give you an idea of where those can be applied. If you find it useful, I will share all of these default tokens and my files in the Penpot community straight after this live stream. So if you want to download or the file itself, or even export the JSON file and import it into your own projects, you can do that and kind of use it as a starter kit. So another way that we create design tokens is by using these, what we would call semantic tokens. Now, what these are is a way of basically documenting what your token is for. So it is more than just a color or a unit of spacing. You're saying, hey, I want to create this, use this color for the background of a button that is the negative variation. And this tells the team, or future me, if you're just a person working by yourself, that is what we want to use that color for. And we can also use those semantic tokens to easily determine things like accessible color pairings. So for example, in this token set here, got a lot of sets down here. Maybe if I go to my base set. Here you can see I have preset colors for input background color, input border color, input icon color, input text color. And I know that the team has already tested these colors. We already know that there's sufficient contrast from an accessibility point of view. You could do the same with sort of base layers, also known sometimes as surface layers or level layers. And each of these particular groups of colors have been tested so that they can work well alongside each other. And that means you only need to make that decision once. You can make that determination for your whole team. And then everyone can just go in and apply the tokens consistently across the whole of your team's designs. All the benefits of design systems going on in there. So we can also do things like I think I've done this down here. So let's have a look at layer 1 icon. One of the things that I often find is you don't really care what the icon color is. You just want to make sure that the icon color is always the same as the text color. And you can do this using what we call references or aliases. And so what I've done here is for the icon token, the value I've set is the value of a different token. So the layer 1 text token. And I put that inside curly brackets. And that's saying, for this icon token, just use the same value as the text token. And then you can see this resolve value down here tells me, okay, it resolves to this hex code of 494949. And so using references and aliases in that way allows you to still have tokens that are very meaningful and semantic. This is still the color for an icon, but we know that that icon is going to stay the same color as the text. We might change our mind about that in the future, and that's fine. The token will still be applied to the icon, and we can just change the value, and we can make it something different from the text color as well. Now, density. Density is a really interesting one. So if I go into, this is just one token in my compact density set. And this density token has a value of 0.5. Now, one of the things you can also see here is I've got a description of my token. That's really handy because that's extra documentation, and that will also be exported if you export your design tokens too. Now, 0.5 seems kind of meaningless by itself until you realize that you can use calculations inside of your design tokens. So you see how when I switch between the different densities, so at the moment I'm on spacious, when I'm on comfortable, the spacing and the sizing values change to make it more of an even one. Whoopsie daisy, what have I done there? And if I switch to from comfortable, I go to compact, you see that it even tightens up that spacing even more. Now, the way I'm doing that is, so again, density for comfortable, that token has a value of 1. And density spacious, that token has a value of 1.5. Now, whichever is enabled, that token will be used. And if I jump down here to my spacing section, I have a variety of tokens. I have fixed tokens. So these are tokens where the spacing does not respond to the density. And these are just matching the linear values that I've already got set up in my foundations. But if I go to, say, spacing medium, I'm using a calculation here where I'm taking the linear value and I'm multiplying it by the density. And this is resolving to a value of 12 for medium. But if I switched to my spacious theme, and I look again at spacing medium, now that's resolving to 36. So I think there's something quirky going on my internet that's causing me a little bug that's going on there. So that's using those calculations allows you to create way more complex systems. I mean, you could create whole scales using those calculations and maybe base everything off of one base value. You could be really creative with how you set things up if you want to get clever with it. Now, we've looked at sets and how these work. Now I want to show you the idea of themes. So if I jump back into here. So I can combine different sets to create a theme. So maybe I want to do light mode and dark mode. Now, as you can see, adding tokens can take a little while to set up. So I've just got some tokens that I already created for this. So here I have a light mode set, which has a light color for the backgrounds of the modal and the surface. And I have a dark set, which has a dark color for the background. It's still got a light color for the surface. And what I can do is I can create a theme from these. So say I want to create the light theme. Just enter the name in there and save it. And once I've created a theme, I choose the sets that should be applied when that theme is enabled. So I want the global set to be applied because I want to make sure that all of those foundational tokens or global tokens are applied, and the light set. So I'll save that theme. And I want to add a new one for dark as well. And that will be all of those global tokens as well as the dark set of tokens. And I will save that theme. And then what I can do is I can switch between my light and my dark themes, just like that. And you can do something as simple as that, where it's just changing a background color, arguably not great color contrast on the text there. Or if I go back to this example, you can create something that has a lot more complexity in its light mode and dark mode and works across different mock-ups and different sort of color themes as well. When I have, wrong file. When I have all of these themes set up, I can also create modes, which is a way of grouping those themes. So if, for example, in my write safe one, if I want to, I've grouped here, my light and dark are under a color mode. My densities are all grouped together here. And that means that I can have different sets enabled simultaneously. And the way that I do that is I go into edit my themes and I add a group name for those themes. So I'm going to call this color mode, and the same for this one. And now when I switch between them, you see the color mode grouping here, and it makes it clearer that these are alternative themes to one another. Now I'm going to very, very quickly show you design tokens fitting in with your overall design system. So this would be a question that a lot of you would have is, how do these design tokens fit in with my existing libraries in Penpot? And the great thing is that you can use color tokens, any tokens, design tokens general, with your existing libraries. So here are the components that I'm actually using with the write safe mockups. And so here I've got my buttons, and these are all set up with their own individual tokens. These are the same tokens that I've imported across from my mockups. But actually, if I only use tokens in my library and I connect that library to the mockup, all of the colors and all of the spacing and all the tokens that I've set inside my library will be applied in the mockup through those components in the library. And what's even smarter is if you then create a token by the same name in your local file, it will override the value of the token in the library. So you can really have a huge amount of control doing that. Now, I can see there's been lots of things popping up in my periphery. So I imagine that we have probably got a lot of questions going on. So why don't the three of us all jump into a Q&A? You can ask your questions live because, you know, we are live on whatever platform you're watching on, unless you're watching the video back later. So do you have any questions about design tokens you want to ask? And one of the three of us can answer them, or maybe even show you how to do things in Penpot. Oh, and one reminder for you that if you have a question that we don't answer today, or you want to see something else demoed in more depth, we have a hands-on session all about design tokens, which is in a couple of weeks, the 30th of April, that's a Wednesday. And I will be doing another demo and answering your questions then. So, do we have any questions? Right, hang on, I'm going to zoom in to see this.
Thank you, Laura. No questions, just amazing, amazing.
Love that standards are leading the way at Penpot, even with emerging practices like design tokens. Absolutely. Less of a question, more of a comment, and I think one that we all agree with. So, do we have any other questions? Come on, I know we do somewhere.
I saw plenty during the live.
There we go. I know that this is a good question here for Mike. Is there a possibility to connect tokens platform to Penpot?
Oh, mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm assuming it's the Token Studio platform that we're referring to
I would
here.
assume so.
Yeah, well, absolutely, you can already do that today because in the demo we just saw the import and export function. So this is directly aligned with the format that we also have in Studio. And of course, we are working on really exciting features on the roadmap together with Penpot to bring more intuitive ways to sync your data across different tools, not just the Studio platform. So yeah, absolutely, we're working on that. Yeah, and you will be able to sync with Studio platform and every other tool really that you want to sync with, and that supports import, export, or APIs.
Fabulous. Any table view for the tokens set? Oh, that's an interesting way of thinking about it, how to otherwise format the tokens. Pablo, is that something that the team is thinking about?
Well, with 2.6, we had like the very basic design tokens release, the kind of a MVP, already quite powerful. Now we are going into what we call design tokens workflows. This is we're already working on that. So I don't know if that will be 2.7 or 2.8, but it's coming soon. And this is more about streamlining how you're using design tokens on on daily work, whether it's integrating with the Git repository or showing them, managing them, on the UI. So on that particular request, I'm not sure. Perhaps a future plan could do that, or perhaps ways of improving how we can do layout, organization of the whole tokens. Great feedback. We always have the community space to get us those kinds of ideas. So if you could, if this person could elaborate a bit on why they would like to see this, for which use cases, that would be wonderful. From our experience, every time we ask for feedback we ask feedback to the community, we build bolder products. So I think this might be one of those avenues further, worth exploring.
Absolutely. These design tokens are created by file. Can I compose with other files? Now, I'm thinking about combining with other files, maybe. Now, you can create design tokens from inside Penpot. I was importing them mostly just for time's sake. But you can always, if you have multiple sets that you want to combine, because of the flexibility of the tokens format, you can very easily do that in a text editor. And I would say that even if you aren't very confident with code, the JSON format is very readable. And so you should be able to work out how to combine them in those areas as well if you want to do that.
I think, and also if your use case, if you're already using design tokens and you're using multiple files, we're going to build very soon. We actually discussed that early this week to merge that for you and make it very simple for you to merge multiple files into one importable file. Yeah, because you can count on that.
Oh, that is really cool. I can already think of some use cases for myself that can make use of that.
Yeah.
Any annotation or tokens documentation we can hand off to developers. Well, you can do that with your file itself. So if you go to the, maybe if I show this in Penpot, folks, if I could show my screen, there we go. So if you export your file here, you will end up with a file that looks something like this. In fact, this is one that I exported earlier. And here you can see actually the density I was telling you about earlier, and the description that I wrote for the use of the density token is there inside of this JSON. And so you can use that as a way to provide any additional documentation. I mean, the naming itself and the grouping of your sets and the different themes, that's all a type of documentation too. But having things like descriptions there gives you additional space to provide annotations on your design tokens too.
Yeah, and I think in addition to that, right, we will be surfacing applied design tokens in different places across Penpot as we go along to make it a lot more intuitive to work with these values, and of course, being API first as an approach. As we develop the APIs and everything, I'm sure there will be many tools and also plugins, right, and native features that really close that gap, because let's be honest about it, right? There's not one way of handoff that we really think about. And it's nice to annotate for handoff, but it's really nice when you don't need to annotate it, right? And you can connect these pieces. So we're really thinking on those lines, right? Take out all the labor of your documenting and all these decisions in Figma, annotating them, right? And rather look for the solution where we can tie things together in an elegant way. So a lot of really exciting stuff coming there as well.
How easy is it to migrate a design system from Figma to Penpot? Actually, I might ask that of you, Mike, as the resident Figma knowledgeable person.
Well, I don't think it's exactly a straightforward question, but assuming that there's a file that has components in it and there are design tokens or variables, We already have the tooling for you to surface your design data in terms of variables. And of course, we are doing that on the design tokens format, so that's interoperable between all tools. I also know there's been a plugin in the making, which I've seen around for a while now, that actually allows you to export your design files to a Penpot format as well. So I think if you combine those two possibilities, you would be able to probably do it in a couple of hours with a bit of work. It shouldn't be hard at all to get them migrated. So I think in the context of a design system, I would say this is like really easy.
Actually, I think I'll be writing some migration journeys very soon. I had it planned for today, but then we have this live, so I postponed that to next week. Sometimes it will be straightforward migration with a plugin, exported plugin. Sometimes you will have to rethink your strategy because they're not actually they're different tools and they treat design differently and alignment and layout. So you have things like auto layout. We don't have auto layout. We have declarative design solutions like Flexbox and CSS Grid. So you need to translate that. So sometimes it is okay to let the plugin translate that for you, but there will be many instances where you actually want to start anew, because the Penpot way of dealing with this kind of declarative design and code first approach, it pays off. So I think we will be sharing different migration journeys so people can say, that's my use case. I'll go for that. But I think design tokens being there will really help that process in some of those use cases for sure.
Yeah, all of those values. That's one of the things that takes the longest to translate across. When is support for typography coming? Over to you with that one, Pablo.
Very soon. like it's I think if you go to our Taiga project and you see the current sprint or the backlog, you will see it is either already being worked on or close to be picked with by someone. Yeah, actually there were plans to have that included into this MVP. Then we decided not to postpone the MVP and release this without typography, but we have it is top priority. So I honestly think, from what I have been reading, today actually, that it is meant to be part of the next release. So it is when I say soon, it means very soon. And by the way, we do 6-week release cycles, so you can expect something cool happening every 6 weeks. So this is nice cadence for people to know that we're building fast and with very disciplined about what we are building here. So very soon, yeah.
I'm very excited for that. If you're already familiar with design tokens, you might know that typographies, they're not just made up of one value and name pair. They're made up of a lot of different values for maybe the font family, the size, the line height, the weight. And so these require composite tokens, which is something that's going to be sort of bundled in with those typographies.
Yeah, what I'm really excited about in typography is that, we've already seen in the demo what you can do with spacing and math. So yeah, once typography is there, I think fluid type scales and all these kind of things, right? So that's going to be really exciting. It's a really big feature, and I think I'm also looking really forward to that.
How can our team use Penpot's design tokens in their code? Now, we kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier when I showed you the JSON file. Actually, if I just jump back into Penpot for you here. Now, another way you can do it is, of course, if you're not familiar with this in Penpot already, is say I'm selecting this button and I go to inspect mode. You do also get the code and the properties of the selected object on the canvas there that you can use. But I would say that right now the best way would probably be to export that JSON file from the components, so from the tokens. So if I went to export from the tools there in the tokens tab, and then you've got that JSON file that is, of course, platform agnostic and can work with many web frameworks that already exist and other tools for design systems too.
I saw so many questions. I know we will be able to. Okay. I think that's for you, Laura.
Will it be possible to share token sets as we share libraries at the moment, or integrate them within a library? So yes, this is an example of a library that has tokens in it. And so all of these tokens, they're just in this library file
I think we
here.
need to see your screen.
Oh, yes, sorry. I can see it. Why can't everyone else? Yeah, we got it. Okay, so here, this is a library file already. You can tell it's a library if I go to the Assets tab and Manage Library. This file library has been published, so it can be accessed by everyone else in my team. And here, my tokens, these are applied to these same tokens that I've got in the other file. They're actually applied to these components here. So for example, if I go to the layers list, you can see that this button, this primary focused button, is a component. Now, if someone uses that component from the library, if they've connected this library to their file, they'll be able to pull the, it will automatically apply the tokens that are set in this file. And then, of course, if you want to grab the tokens from this library and import them into another file, you can do that as well. Any major UI toolkits you legends are targeting / collaborating with?
Yeah, I can answer that from our end, because we actually have started, and in the past also, but also recently, again, building more collaborations with some builders of UI kits. I would say some of them are significant. So we will talk about it a bit more soon, but yeah, it's definitely one of the things that we really looked at, and not just get the UI kit out, but we've actually also been working with some of these kit builders or teams to really help evolve the token architecture of those kits to make sure, again, from the idea of collaboration and open source, that we can really make UI kits and token architectures that are very scalable. So I think some really cool boilerplates will be coming in the next months for sure.
Oh, that is very exciting.
So being a Linux nerd myself, I'm having very informal conversations with both the GNOME and KDE, desktop environments, and they have their own UI toolkits. They are in some way, they started as being UI toolkits, and I think it is a great opportunity for both projects, and not only them, like XFC and others, to build their design systems and components using design tokens as a foundational layer, because they already have that in their documentation. So I would love to see major desktop environment frameworks in Linux and other systems onboard a really powerful design prototyping tool that understands their nuances.
Yeah, design standards are great. Like, all standards are so valuable for us to have across the platform. We've seen that live out over and over again. And so the more different platforms take them on, the better that the ecosystems we work within are going to work. Is there a limit in the number of tokens we can create? That's a good question. I've not hit a limit yet.
Why should be there any limits? No, there's no. The limits, actually, this idea of design tokens is to make sure that you don't have any limits, that you don't hit yourself with this wall of, okay, I cannot handle this complexity anymore because I'm doing all this kind of pseudo manually. Design tokens are a way to encourage you to be bolder and scale up your design systems, and build those decisions on more complex layers, and know that you have this safety net. So it would be counterintuitive and defeating the purpose if we actually enforced any limits to the number of tokens. The more the merrier here. So absolutely no limit to that.
I have hundreds of tokens in that file that I showed you, and I'm not experiencing any performance issues or
Not
anything
many,
like that. It's not
hundreds,
a problem at all. So
until
yeah,
you get to millions, perhaps.
when you import a lot of color palettes, that's what happens. You can get a lot very quickly. Okay, we've got a little bit of time left. Should we go for another question? Can I import a, I don't know what a Casa Stici from another site to create some pages with Penpot? I think there's a typing issue going on here. Oh, limitless fun indeed. Okay, right, let's go to this next question. Really technical questions. Great. Does Penpot plugins API currently allow the handling of tokens? And would you allow post-get tokens through HTTP requests?
So I can answer that one. Currently, no. Again, both typography and API support. When I mean API, I particularly mean plugin system API in this particular case. Didn't come into the MVP, but they are next in the roadmap. So we do think that we have import-export JSON file. That's very, very cool. But to be able to make sure that everyone can use design tokens from a programmatic way and use the API, plugin system, etc., I think it's very important. So you will see that in the backlog. And again, this is not as top priority as typography tokens, but is like coming next. So yeah, the team really wants to make sure that you have this framework feeling with Penpot. So you have the end user experience, but also the interoperable platform/framework experience. And design tokens will definitely benefit from that.
Now, I wonder if we have maybe time for one more question before we wrap up. What about JSON to CSS? Yes, of course, because design tokens, if you're using JSON, you're going to often end up wanting to use them in CSS as variables and values. Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm glad this was asked because I actually just realized I forgot to mention one thing. I briefly mentioned that we are, since the last 2 years, actively maintaining and building Style Dictionary. What I totally forgot to mention is that Style Dictionary actually is what runs the entire design token resolution and theming functions under the hood in Penpot. So, and I'll answer the CSS question as well, but I think why this is really exciting is because I think if you've worked with design tokens, you know that often when you create your design tokens or variables or whatever the tool calls it, and you want to transform that to another platform, there's often quite a bit of hassle going on, and it's not always that easy. So it may be working in one tool, but then you export it and it doesn't work like that exactly. So what we decided to do was, instead of separating those things, we've been working on bringing Style Dictionary in as really a powerful, or a powerhouse, as an engine that sits right there. So what that means for your question of JSON to CSS is that, like, if you want to transform your tokens to any other platform, let it be CSS, let it be iOS, let it be Android, maybe it's your own technology, you create a parser for it. If you can do it in Style Dictionary, you can export it. And since we are already using it in Penpot under the hood, you also know that if it works in Penpot, it is going to work and translate to code. And that is really powerful.
And that really fits in with the rest of Penpot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wonderfully put. That was the last question. That was like, legally, this is over now. We do not accept any more questions.
Remember, if you have any other questions, you can always join me for the hands-on that I'll be doing in a couple of weeks' time. And if you have anything you specifically want to request that I demo in that, just hop into the Penpot community and let me know in there, and I will see what I can do. Over to you, Pablo.
Thank you. All right. So I think I want to, I want to thank you for being with me, Laura and Mike. This has been a real pleasure. I think I love this format when, we're three talking heads answering questions, but also sharing ideas, and not just dreams, but actually making things true, and that you can feel. And if anyone's wondering, by the way, whether this is real or not, it is real. You can try this out. You can use it on penpot.app, or you can self-host your own Penpot server. And so you enjoy this however you want. And now, before we say goodbye, so I'll be saying goodbye in a minute. I want to also share that this is 2.6, but then 2.7 will come, and then 2.8, and we have plenty of interesting releases coming soon. I don't want to share anything around that. Even we are an open source company, and so we are fully transparent. You can, we don't have many secrets there. But what is important for me is to share that also what's coming this year is Penpot Fest. And Penpot Fest is happening in Madrid, October 8 to 10th. You can now grab early bird tickets. This is going to be a great party for everyone to celebrate this relationship between design and code. It is a bit about Penpot, but not that much, actually. We have people coming from, the whole industry sharing their experiences, their thoughts, their dreams, their pains, and having that, with Penpot being hosts to that. So that's it. Bye-bye, to everyone. Thank you so much for having, the time to be with us. And I'll leave you with this wonderful Penpot Fest ad. Go get your tickets. Bye-bye.